During my graduation dinner, my mother's poisonous words, "I wish you were never born," splintered my world. But that public betrayal was only the beginning. They launched a methodical, icy war to obliterate every shred of my life and career, but their vicious scheme only powered my unforeseen, radiant triumph. Can you imagine your own mother looking you dead in the eye at your medical school graduation dinner and telling you, "I wish you were never born"? It wasn't just a cruel jab, it was a blade, twisting through 27 years of my life. And what happened next? Well, that's where my story truly begins. That night, champagne glass trembling in my hand, my mother, Eleanor, cut through the celebratory buzz like a physical blow. "Honestly, Lena," she said, her voice sharp and dismissive, "we wish you were never born." The entire restaurant went silent. 27 years of being the family disappointment, the square peg, the rebel, it all crystallized in that single, brutal moment. My father, Robert, just nodded, his face confirming every awful word. My brothers, Daniel and Michael, actually smirked. I set down my glass, the crystal clinking softly against the white tablecloth. I looked at each of them, meeting their eyes one by one. And then I said the words that would change everything: "Consider me as if I never existed. Live your lives as though there was never a daughter named Lena." The table remained frozen. I could hear the faint clink of silverware from the kitchen, the soft jazz music still playing, and the frantic pounding of my own heart in my ears. My Aunt Patricia's fork clattered. My cousin Sophie's eyes were wide with shock. Uncle David looked between my mother and me like he was watching a slow-motion car crash. My mother, Eleanor, let out this dismissive laugh, one I'd heard 1,000 times before. "Don't be dramatic, Lena. Sit down." She waved her hand, shooing me away like I was an annoying fly, like my entire existence was just an inconvenience she could brush off. But I didn't sit down. I stood there, feeling something shift deep inside me. All those years of being compared to Daniel, the golden child, the corporate lawyer who made partner at 32. And Michael, the tech genius who started his own company and sold it for millions. And then there was me, Lena, the one who chose medicine instead of law or business. The one who worked 3 jobs through college, who took out loans while my brothers got family money handed to them. The one who graduated with honors, but was never, ever quite good enough. My father, Robert, stood up then, his face reddening, that vein in his temple throbbing the way it always did before he launched into a lecture. "You're being ungrateful, Lena, after everything we've done for you." Everything they'd done for me, I almost choked on the irony. They hadn't contributed a single dime to my education. Not one. I'd worked 3 jobs, lived on ramen and cheap coffee, studied until my eyes burned while pulling hospital shifts, all on my own. But in their twisted reality, they were my grand benefactors. Eleanor crossed her arms. "We told you to join Daniel's firm. You could have had a steady job, good money, respect. But no, you had to do things your way. Always so difficult." Michael leaned back in his chair, that smug, self-satisfied expression he'd perfected over the years plastered across his face. "Face it, Lena, you've always been the charity case of this family. We all had to pick up your slack." And that's when something inside me just snapped. Or maybe, just maybe, it finally healed. I'm still not entirely sure which. My hand went to the family heirloom necklace at my throat, the one my grandmother Esther had given me when I graduated college, even though Eleanor had declared it should go to a more deserving grandchild. The gold felt cool and solid in my palm. Slowly, deliberately, I unclasped it and placed it carefully on the white tablecloth, right next to my untouched dinner. Then, I took off the bracelet my father had given me for college graduation. The inscription read, "To our daughter." I set it next to the necklace. "What are you doing?" Eleanor's voice had a dangerous edge now. I looked at each of them. Daniel in his expensive suit. Michael with his designer watch. My parents in their country club finest. And I felt nothing but absolute, chilling clarity. You said you wish I was never born, I stated, my voice calm, even. I'm granting your wish. As of this moment, you have no daughter named Lena. I don't exist to you. Live your lives exactly as you want, without me in them. My friend Chloe, who was sitting beside me, grabbed my arm. Lena, wait. I squeezed her hand. I'm okay. I promise. And the strange thing was, I meant it. I walked out of that restaurant without looking back. I didn't run. I didn't cry. I just walked, one foot in front of the other, through tables of shocked diners, past the hostess stand, and out into the cool evening air. My car was parked 3 blocks away. I made it all the way there before my hand started shaking so hard I could barely get the key in the ignition. I drove to my tiny studio apartment, a lease I'd just signed 3 weeks prior. My residency was supposed to start at St. Jude's Hospital in another 3 weeks. Everything was finally coming together. I sank onto my second-hand couch and pulled out my phone. I blocked Eleanor's number. Then Robert's. Then Daniel's and Michael's. I went through all my social media and blocked them there, too. Then I opened my email and typed out one message to all 4 of them. You said you wish I was never born. Your wish is granted. I no longer exist to you. Do not contact me. Do not reach out. We are done. I hit send. And this immense, crushing weight lifted from my shoulders. I actually smiled. For the first time in my entire life, I felt truly, unequivocally free. That feeling lasted exactly 4 hours. My phone started buzzing. Not from them, they were blocked, remember. But from everyone else. Aunt Patricia called twice. Cousin Sophie sent 7 text messages. Uncle David left a voicemail. Extended family members I hadn't heard from in years suddenly had my number. The messages were all variations of the same thing. What happened? Your mother is so upset. Can we talk? Family shouldn't fight like this. Then my phone rang again. It was Grandma Esther, 81 years old and sharper than anyone I knew. Lena, sweetheart, she said, her voice crackling but clear. I heard what happened. Good for you. I almost dropped the phone. What? I stammered. Good for you, she repeated firmly. I've watched your mother treat you like garbage your whole life. It's about time someone stood up to her. Are you okay? That's when the dam broke. I cried then. Real ugly, snot-dripping tears. I think so, Grandma. You call me if you need anything, sweetheart, she said, her voice full of steel and love. Anything at all. I mean it. We talked for an hour. She told me she'd already called Eleanor and told her she was ashamed of her. That made me feel a little better, a little less alone. But then my friend Chloe texted me. Lena, your mom is trying to reach you through me. She sent me a message to give you. Do you want to hear it? What does it say? I typed back, my stomach clenching. She says, if you don't apologize and come back, there will be consequences. An apology? No remorse, just a demand. Consequences. I stared at that text for a long time. Then I typed, tell her I said no. And Chloe, please don't pass along any more messages from her. Chloe immediately replied, I won't. I'm here if you need me. Love you. I turned off my phone and went to bed. For the first time in months, I slept through the night without nightmares about disappointing my family. 3 days later, I woke up to an email notification on my laptop. The sender was Dr. Evelyn Reed, the residency director at St. Jude's Hospital. The subject line read, Urgent, we need to discuss your residency position. My stomach dropped to my feet. My hands went cold. I clicked it open with shaking fingers. Dr. Evans, please contact my office immediately to schedule a meeting before your start date. A matter has come to our attention that requires discussion. Dr. Evelyn Reed. A matter. I read it 3 times. Each time that word seemed to grow bigger, more ominous. What matter? What could possibly have happened? I'd completed all my paperwork, passed every requirement, everything was done. I called her office as soon as they opened. The secretary, who'd always been so friendly before, now sounded chillingly cold. Dr. Reed can see you at 2 o'clock this afternoon. Please be on time. I arrived at St. Jude's 45 minutes early. My anxiety was through the roof. I sat in my car trying to calm my breathing, going through every possible scenario. Had I made a mistake on my paperwork? Had my licensing gone wrong? Had they found a better candidate and rescinded the offer? The thought that it might be connected to my family flickered in my mind, but I pushed it away. That was paranoid, right? They couldn't possibly reach into my professional life, could they? At exactly 2 o'clock, I walked into Dr. Reed's office. She was in her late 50s, gray hair pulled back in a neat bun, sharp eyes that had probably seen everything in her 30 years of medicine. She gestured to the chair across from her desk. Thank you for coming in, Lena. Her voice was professional, but I caught something else there, concern, disappointment, maybe. Of course, I managed. Your email said there was a matter to discuss. She opened a folder and pulled out several sheets of paper. We received some communications over the past few days that have raised concerns with our administration. My heart started pounding. What kind of communications? Anonymous emails and phone calls to our hospital board. Multiple people have reported concerns about your character, your stability, and your fitness for the pressures of a medical residency. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. What? That's not true. Who said that? Dr. Reed slid the papers across her desk. These are printouts of the emails we received. They describe an incident at a public dinner where you allegedly had a breakdown. According to these reports, you threw jewelry, violently screamed obscenities at your family members, and stormed out in what witnesses described as an unstable rage. I stared at the words on the page. The graduation dinner. But that wasn't what happened. That wasn't what happened at all, Dr. Reed. That's not true. None of that is true. My voice was shaking. Yes, there was an incident at my graduation dinner, but it wasn't like that. My family said something incredibly hurtful to me, and I quietly removed some jewelry they'd given me and left. I didn't throw anything. I didn't scream. I just left. She studied my face. Can anyone corroborate your version of events? Yes. My friend Chloe was there. Several of my classmates from medical school were there, at least a dozen witnesses who saw exactly what happened. I was talking fast now, words tumbling over each other. Dr. Reed, I think my family might be behind these complaints. We had a falling out that night, and I cut off contact with them. I think they're trying to punish me. She was quiet for a long moment. Lena, I want to believe you. Your record up until now has been exemplary. Your professors speak highly of you. Your clinical rotations were outstanding. But. And there it was, the but. The hospital administration is concerned. They're worried about drama, about family instability affecting your performance. Several board members are pushing to rescind your position. I couldn't breathe. My entire future, everything I'd bled and sweated for, felt like it was crumbling into dust right before my eyes. Please, I pleaded, tears stinging my eyes. Please don't do this. I can prove what really happened. I can have my friends send statements. I can show you that these complaints are false. Dr. Reed nodded slowly. I've argued for you, Lena. I fought to keep your position. Here's what I was able to negotiate. You can start your residency as planned, but you'll be on probationary status for the first 6 months. Probationary status. What does that mean? It means you'll be watched more closely than other residents. Any complaints, any issues, any incidents at all, and your position will be immediately terminated. No second chances. You'll need to be perfect. It was humiliating. It was unfair. But it was better than losing everything. I understand. Thank you for fighting for me. Document everything, Lena, she advised, her sharp eyes softening with genuine concern. If what you're saying is true and your family is behind this, you need to protect yourself. Get those witness statements. File complaints about the false reports. Build your defense. I left her office feeling nauseous. I sat in my car and called Chloe immediately. She answered on the first ring. Lena, what's wrong? You sound terrible. I told her everything. She was furious. That's insane. I'll write a statement right now. I'll get everyone else who was there to write them, too. This is absolutely not okay. True to her word, within 2 days, I had detailed written statements from Chloe and 3 other medical school classmates who'd attended the dinner. They all said the same thing: I'd been calm. I'd been quiet. I'd left peacefully. There had been no violence, no screaming, no instability. I submitted everything to the hospital administration along with a formal complaint about the false reports. I felt like I was fighting back, like I was taking control. I should have known better. 2 days before my residency was supposed to start, my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered it anyway. Hello, is this Lena Evans? Yes. Who's calling? This is Ralph Sanders. I'm the landlord of the apartment you're renting on Oak Street. My mouth went dry. Yes. I'm calling to inform you that your lease is being terminated effective immediately. I've already rented the unit to someone else. You have 72 hours to vacate. What? You can't do that. I have a signed lease. I paid first and last month's rent and security deposit. You provided false information on your application. I received a call from your previous landlord saying you were evicted for property damage and unpaid rent. That's fraud, and it voids the lease. That's not true. I've never been evicted. I left my last apartment on good terms. Who called you? I'm not at liberty to say, but the information was very detailed and came from what seemed like a credible source. I've already made my decision. 72 hours, Miss Evans. He hung up before I could even find my voice. I sank onto my second-hand couch, the only piece of furniture I really owned, and just stared. Someone was methodically, systematically tearing my life apart. I was about to start one of the most demanding jobs in medicine, and I was going to be homeless. I called Chloe, who immediately offered her couch. You can stay as long as you need. It's not going to be long-term, I said, trying to hold it together. I just need to find another place, but thank you. I spent the next 2 days apartment hunting between packing up my things. Everything required first month, last month, and a security deposit. I had the money. I'd been saving carefully for exactly these kinds of expenses during residency. On the day I was supposed to move out, I went to pay for a hotel room for the night while I kept looking. My debit card was declined. I tried again. Declined. I pulled out my credit card. Also declined. I sat in the hotel lobby, my entire life packed into my car outside, and opened my banking app on my phone. Account under review. Access temporarily restricted. Please contact customer service. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely dial the number. The bank's hold music played in my ear as I sat there, watching people check in and out, going about their normal lives while mine was falling apart. After 15 agonizing minutes, a representative finally answered. "How can I help you today?" "My accounts are frozen," I said, my voice tight with stress. "Both my checking and savings. I need to know why." "Let me pull up your account. Can you verify your social security number and date of birth?" I rattled off the information. "I see your account has been flagged for suspicious activity and potential identity theft. The fraud department has placed a temporary hold pending investigation." Identity theft. I haven't reported any identity theft. Who reported it? I'm not able to see those details, but according to the notes, multiple suspicious transactions were flagged, and someone contacted us with concerns. The investigation will take 7 to 10 business days. 7 to 10 days. I choked. I need access to my money now. I'm about to be homeless. I'm starting a new job. I have bills to pay. I understand your frustration, but for your protection, we need to complete the investigation. Is there anything else I can help you with today? I wanted to scream. Instead, I said, "No, thank you," and hung up. I checked my wallet. $63 in cash. That was it. That was all I had access to in the world. I had $12,000 in my savings account that I'd scraped together over years of working multiple jobs. Money I needed for rent, for food, for gas, for everything I'd need during residency when I'd be working 80-hour weeks and barely surviving. And I couldn't touch it. My residency started in 2 days. 2 days. I needed professional clothes, a stethoscope, comfortable shoes. I needed a place to live. I needed to eat. And I had $63. I called Chloe again. She answered immediately. "What's wrong now?" "My bank accounts are frozen." I blurted out. "Someone reported suspicious activity and identity theft. I can't access my money." "Oh my God, Lena." Okay. My couch is yours. Seriously, for as long as you need it. We'll figure this out." I drove to Chloe's apartment in a daze. She lived in a small 2-bedroom place with her girlfriend, Jessica. They welcomed me in, helped me bring in my boxes, and Chloe made me sit down and eat something while Jessica made up the couch with blankets and pillows. "I feel like such a burden," I said, tears blurring my vision. "You're not," Chloe said, squeezing my hand. "You're my friend, and you're going through something awful. Let us help." That night, I filed fraud reports with the bank. I filed a police report about the harassment. I tried to trace who had made the false reports about my accounts, but everything was anonymous, untraceable, professional. The next morning, my phone rang. I didn't recognize the number, but something made me answer it. "Lena, it's Daniel." My blood went cold. "How did you get this number?" "That doesn't matter. I'm calling because this has gone on long enough. All of this can go away, the problems with your residency, the issues with your apartment, your bank accounts, all of it. Mom and Dad just want an apology." And there it was. Confirmation. They were behind everything. An apology. I laughed, the sound bitter even to my own ears. For what? For defending myself. For having boundaries. For embarrassing them in public. For making a scene. They want you to post on social media admitting you were wrong and disrespectful. They want you at Sunday dinner to apologize in front of the extended family. That's it. That's all it takes for this to stop. "You're a lawyer, Daniel," I said, my voice rising. "You know what you're describing is harassment, extortion. It's illegal." His voice turned cold. "Prove it. All those complaints. Anonymous. The bank freeze. Standard fraud protocol. The landlord? He made his own decision based on information he received. There's nothing connecting any of this to us. I know people at your hospital, Lena. I know people at your bank. I know people everywhere. Our family has connections you can't even imagine. You're making this so much harder than it needs to be. We're family. You'll come crawling back eventually. Why not make it easy on yourself? Something snapped inside me again. I'd rather lose everything. I spat out, my voice shaking with pure, unadulterated rage, than give you the satisfaction. Don't ever contact me again. I slammed the phone down, blocked his number, and sat there trembling, adrenaline flooding my veins. Chloe came out of her bedroom. Who was that? My brother. Confirming what we already knew. They're behind everything. We should go to the police. He's right though. There's no proof. It's all anonymous, all circumstantial. And he's a lawyer with connections. I'm nobody. You're not nobody, Chloe said, pulling me into a fierce hug. You're about to be Dr. Lena Evans, and you're going to be amazing. I wanted to believe her. I really did. The next day, I started my residency. I put on the one professional outfit I owned that still looked decent. I wore my old sneakers because I couldn't afford new shoes. I drove to St. Jude's Hospital on a quarter tank of gas because I couldn't afford to fill up. And despite everything, despite being exhausted, stressed, and terrified, I showed up. I did my orientation. I met my fellow residents. I worked my first shift in the emergency department, and I was good. I was really good. The attending physician, Dr. John Miller, even pulled me aside to say I'd done excellent work with a difficult patient. For a moment, I felt a fragile spark of hope. Maybe I could survive this. Maybe I could push through and come out the other side. During my lunch break, I checked my phone. There was a message from Dr. Reed's secretary. Dr. Reed needs to see you in her office immediately. My stomach dropped. I walked to her office on legs that felt like jelly. Dr. Reed looked utterly exhausted. Lena, I'm sorry. I fought for you. I really did. What happened? The hospital received an anonymous letter this morning. It claims you falsified parts of your medical school application. Specifically, it alleges that you plagiarized data from a research project in your third year. I felt dizzy. That's not true. None of that is true. I know. Or at least I believe you, she said, her voice heavy. But the hospital administration has no choice. We have to investigate. And until that investigation is complete, you're suspended from the residency program effective immediately. Suspended for how long? I don't know. It could be weeks. It could be longer. I'm so sorry, Lena. I walked out of that hospital in my scrubs, a bag with my street clothes slung over my shoulder, and got into my car. I just sat there. I couldn't cry. I was too numb, too shocked to even feel the tears. My phone rang. It was the medical school dean's office. They needed to speak with me immediately about serious allegations. And that's when I realized the horrifying scope of what my family was doing. They weren't just punishing me. They were erasing me. They were systematically destroying my entire professional life, piece by painstaking piece, until there would be nothing left. The drive back to my medical school took 3 hours. 3 hours of highway stretching out in front of me while my mind raced through every worst-case scenario. I'd built my entire life around becoming a doctor. 8 years of college and medical school, thousands of hours of studying, clinical rotations, sleepless nights, $230,000 in student loans. And now someone was trying to take it all away with lies. I pulled into the familiar parking lot. I'd graduated from here just 3 weeks ago. I'd walked across that stage with honors. And now I was walking back in as someone under investigation for academic fraud. Dean Margaret Sullivan's office was on the 3rd floor. Her secretary, usually warm and chatty, barely made eye contact. "She's expecting you. Go right in." Dean Sullivan was a tall woman in her 60s with silver hair and a reputation for being tough but fair. She'd always liked me, had even written one of my recommendation letters for residency. But today, her face was grave as she gestured for me to sit. "Lena, thank you for coming on such short notice. I'm sure you can imagine why I needed to see you. The plagiarism allegations, Dean Sullivan, I swear to you, there's no truth to them. I would never falsify data or plagiarize anyone's work. Never." She opened a file on her desk. "Someone has sent us very detailed allegations. They provided what appeared to be email exchanges between you and a classmate discussing sharing research data inappropriately. The emails are dated from your 3rd year, regarding the cardiology research project you worked on with Dr. Rodriguez. Can I see them?" She turned the papers around. I scanned the printed emails. They looked real. They had my email address, my classmate Olivia's email address, timestamps, everything. But I never sent these emails. I never even had conversations like this with Olivia. These are forgeries. Someone created fake emails. Dean Sullivan, my brother Michael runs a tech company. He has the skills to create something like this. Please, you have to believe me. I do believe you, Lena. Or rather, I want to believe you, but you understand. I have to follow protocol. The school must investigate any allegations of academic dishonesty, no matter the source. My hands were shaking. What does that mean for me? It means your status as an alumna is under review. If these allegations are proven true, your degree could be revoked. Until the investigation is complete, you're in a state of limbo. The hospital has already been notified, which I assume you know. I was suspended this morning, I confirmed, my voice hollow. I'm sorry. I truly am. But Lena, you need to understand the seriousness of this. Even if we prove these allegations are false, the damage to your reputation has already been done. Your professional references are being contacted. Your colleagues are being interviewed. People are talking. I felt sick. How long will the investigation take? At least 3 weeks, possibly longer. We need to review all of your original research materials. Interview your research partners and supervisors. Examine the authenticity of these emails. It's a thorough process. 3 weeks. I'm supposed to be in residency right now. Every day I'm not there, I'm falling behind. And even if I'm cleared, who's going to want to hire a resident who's been under investigation for plagiarism? Dean Sullivan's usually stern expression softened just a fraction. Lena, I know this is devastating. For what it's worth, Dr. Rodriguez has already volunteered to help with the investigation. He's supervised your research, and he's confident he can prove your work was original. A tiny, fragile spark of hope flickered. Dr. Richard Rodriguez had been my research mentor for 2 years. If anyone could clear my name, it was him. Thank you, I whispered. I appreciate you telling me that. I left the medical school feeling hollow. My phone was buzzing constantly. I looked at the notifications, messages from former classmates asking if the rumors were true, emails from medical colleagues I'd worked with expressing concern, even a voicemail from a hospital where I'd interviewed for residency last year, rescinding their standing offer. The rumor mill was working fast. In the medical community, reputations were everything, and mine was being shredded in real time. I drove back to Chloe's apartment. It was early afternoon. She was at her own residency, Jessica at work. I had the place to myself. I sat on their couch with my laptop and did something I probably shouldn't have. I Googled myself. The first result was my professional LinkedIn profile. The second was my medical school graduation announcement. The third was a forum post on a medical student message board. The thread was titled, "Anyone know what happened with Lena Evans?" I clicked it against my better judgment. The comments made my stomach churn. I heard she plagiarized her research thesis. My friends at St. Jude said she got suspended from residency on her first day. Didn't she have some kind of breakdown at her graduation dinner? I always thought she was kind of unstable, too intense. People who didn't even know me were discussing my life, my character, my career, and every comment made me sound worse. I slammed the laptop shut, burying my face in my hands. For the first time since that graduation dinner, I let myself truly, completely break. Not quiet tears. This was the kind of sobbing that racks your whole body, pulls air from your lungs, and leaves you hollow. I cried for the career I was losing, for the reputation being destroyed, for the 8 years of work being erased. For the future I'd planned that was crumbling to dust. When Chloe came home that evening, she found me still on the couch, exhausted from crying. "Oh, Lena," she whispered, sitting down and pulling me into a hug. "What happened today?" I told her everything. The meeting with Dean Sullivan, the fake emails, the investigation, the online rumors. By the time I finished, she was furious. "This is insane. We need to fight back. We need to expose what they're doing." "How?" "There's no proof they're behind it. And even if there were, who would believe me? I'm just a suspended resident with a family that says I'm unstable. They have money, connections, lawyers. I have nothing. You have the truth, and you have people who love you," she said firmly. My phone rang. It was Grandma Esther. "Lena, sweetheart," she said, her voice warm and concerned. "I heard about what's happening. David called me. He's been keeping tabs on your mother. I want you to know I'm on your side." "Thanks, Grandma," I sniffled. "I'm also going to hire you a lawyer. A good one. Someone who can fight this harassment." "I can't ask you to do that. It's too much money." "You're not asking. I'm offering. And I don't want to hear any arguments. Eleanor is my daughter, but what she's doing is wrong. Someone needs to stop her." For the first time all day, I felt a tiny, desperate spark of hope. Within 2 days, I was sitting in the office of Laura Kingston, a sharp-eyed attorney in her 50s who specialized in harassment and defamation cases. Esther had hired her and was paying her retainer. Laura listened to my entire story, taking meticulous notes. When I finished, she sat back in her chair. "This is a clear pattern of harassment. The problem is proving who's behind it. Everything's been done anonymously or through third parties, but we can start building a case. We'll file for a restraining order based on the pattern of behavior. We'll document every incident, and we'll be ready if they slip up and leave evidence." "What about the plagiarism investigation?" "That's trickier. Your medical school has to follow their own process, but I can help you prepare your defense." "Do you have any of your original research materials?" "All of it. I keep backups of everything." "Good. We'll need to prove those emails are forgeries. That means getting a tech expert to examine them." For the first time in weeks, I felt like I had someone in my corner who knew how to fight back. But then came the gut punch. Laura's investigator discovered something even worse. My bank accounts hadn't just been frozen. Before the freeze, someone had initiated electronic transfers out of them. Over $9,000, just gone. How is that possible? "I didn't authorize any transfers. Someone had your account information and security details," Laura explained grimly. "They transferred the money out in small amounts over several days to avoid triggering fraud alerts. Then they reported the suspicious activity themselves to cover their tracks. Can I get it back? You'll need to file fraud claims with the bank, and those take 30 to 60 days to process. 30 to 60 days. I'd be lucky if I had a career left by then. Despite everything, there was one piece of good news. Dr. Rodriguez worked quickly. Within a week, he'd compiled all of my original research materials, complete with timestamps, drafts, and his own notes from our supervision meetings. He presented it all to Dean Sullivan with a detailed report. The plagiarism allegations were officially dismissed. The fake emails were identified as forgeries. My record at the medical school was cleared. Dean Sullivan called me personally. Lena, I'm so relieved to tell you this. You've been completely exonerated. I'm writing a formal letter to St. Jude's Hospital defending you and explaining the situation. I should have been ecstatic. Instead, I just felt exhausted. Thank you, Dean Sullivan. I really appreciate everything you've done. But when I called Dr. Reed at St. Jude's Hospital, her voice was sad. Lena, I'm so glad the allegations were disproven, and I want you to know I fought for you, but the hospital administration has decided to terminate your residency position. What? Why? I was cleared. I didn't do anything wrong. I know. They know that, too. But they feel that the situation has created too much disruption, too much drama. They're concerned about the hospital's reputation and the potential for ongoing issues. I'm so sorry. They've suggested you reapply next year. Next year? A whole year of my life lost. A year where I'd have to explain to every program why my residency was terminated. A black mark that would follow me forever. I understand, I said numbly. Thank you for trying. I hung up and sat in Chloe's living room, staring at the wall. I'd been cleared of wrongdoing, but I'd still lost everything. My family had won. They destroyed my career without ever leaving a fingerprint. That night, I drove past Chloe's house just to get some air. I noticed a car parked down the street. My parents' car. They were watching me. Following me. Even after everything they'd done, they weren't stopping. I took a photo of their car and sent it to Laura Kingston. They're stalking me now. Her response was immediate, document everything. We're filing for that restraining order tomorrow. But the next morning brought another crisis. I woke up to a call from Laura. Lena, I need to tell you something. Your parents are suing you for defamation and emotional distress. I shot upright, my head spinning. They're suing me for what? Laura's voice was calm, but I could hear the anger underneath. They claim that your email cutting them off and the things you've said to extended family members about them constitute defamation. They're saying you've damaged their reputation in the community and caused them emotional distress. They're seeking $50,000. That's insane. I told the truth. I haven't lied about anything. I know. And truth is an absolute defense against defamation. But defending against this lawsuit is going to cost money. Legal fees, court costs, depositions. We're looking at $15,000 to $20,000. Even though we'll win, you don't have that kind of money. I don't have any money. Your grandmother is willing to cover it. I already spoke with her this morning. I felt like I was drowning in an ocean of debt and obligation. Esther was already paying for my lawyer. Now she'd have to pay to defend me against my own parents. It was humiliating. The lawsuit is scheduled for a hearing in 6 weeks, Laura continued. Your brother Daniel is representing them. Of course he was. Daniel had connections throughout the legal system. This was going to be ugly. I hung up with Laura and looked at the clock. 7:30 in the morning. Chloe had already left for the hospital. Jessica was at work. I was alone in their apartment, unemployed, under investigation, being sued, and broke. I got dressed and went outside to my car. I needed to drive somewhere, anywhere, just to clear my head. But when I got to the driveway, my car was gone. I walked up and down the street, thinking maybe I'd parked somewhere else and forgotten. But no, my car was definitely gone. I called the police non-emergency line. I need to report a stolen vehicle. Actually, ma'am, your vehicle was towed early this morning from that address. It was reported as abandoned. Abandoned? I drove it yesterday. It's registered, insured, everything. You'll need to contact the tow company. They are the ones who made the report. I got the number and called. The tow company wanted $375 to release my car. I had $11 in my wallet. I walked back into Chloe's apartment and just stood there in the living room. No car, no money, no job, no career. A massive lawsuit hanging over my head. And still my family was out there, relentlessly finding new ways to destroy me. My phone rang. It was Esther. Grandma, I can't keep taking your money. This is too much nonsense. Lena, you're my granddaughter, and what Eleanor is doing is unconscionable. I'm paying for that tow. Give me the number. Lena, let me help you, please. I have more money than I could ever spend, and I want to use it to protect you. This is important to me. Her voice cracked a little on that last sentence. I realized this wasn't just about me. This was about her seeing her own daughter become a monster and trying to make it right. Okay, I said, a sob catching in my throat. Thank you. She paid the tow fee, and Chloe drove me to get my car. As we pulled out of the lot, I saw my father's car parked down the street. They were watching. They wanted me to know they were watching. Over the next few days, Laura worked on filing a restraining order. We documented every incident of harassment, every false report, every attack on my life. She prepared a comprehensive case. The restraining order hearing was scheduled for the following week. But 3 days before it, I got a call from Uncle David. Lena, you need to come to the hospital. Your grandmother had a stroke. Everything stopped. Is she okay? She's stable. She's going to recover, but it was serious. She's at St. Mary's Hospital. I drove there immediately. Esther was in the ICU, hooked up to monitors, but awake. When she saw me, she tried to smile. Don't you dare feel guilty about this, she said, her words slightly slurred but understandable. I'm old. These things happen. But I did feel guilty. The stress of everything, the fighting with Eleanor, the legal battles, it had all taken a toll on her. I stayed with her for hours. Uncle David arrived around dinner time. He pulled me aside in the hallway. Eleanor's already making moves, he said, his voice low and tight. She filed for emergency guardianship of Esther this morning. Claims mom is incapacitated. Can't make her own decisions. My blood ran cold. But she's lucid. She's talking. She's aware. I know, Uncle David said grimly. But Eleanor is trying to get control of her finances. If she succeeds, your legal defense. That's over. I felt like I was going to be sick. Can she do that? She's trying, but I'm contesting it. So are several other family members. We're not going to let her do this. For the next week, my life became a blur of hospital visits, legal meetings, and pure survival. I found a part-time job as a medical consultant for a healthcare company. It wasn't residency, but it paid the bills and used my medical knowledge. I started working 40 hours a week while also dealing with lawyers and court dates. The restraining order hearing finally happened. Laura presented all our evidence. The pattern of harassment, the false reports, the surveillance, the financial attacks. The judge listened carefully. Eleanor played the victim. She cried on the stand, talking about how much she missed her daughter, how worried she was about me, how she just wanted her family back together. It was a performance worthy of an award. But Laura was better. She presented phone records showing the number of times they tried to contact me after I'd asked them to stop. She showed photos of their car outside Chloe's house. She had Chloe and other witnesses testify about the harassment. The judge granted a temporary restraining order. Eleanor and Robert had to stay 300 feet away from me. They couldn't contact me directly or through third parties. Violation would result in arrest. Eleanor lost her composure in the courtroom. She stood up and started yelling about how ungrateful I was, how I destroyed their family, how I'd poisoned everyone against them. The judge threatened her with contempt. It was the first time I'd seen my mother look genuinely unhinged. And in that moment, I understood she wasn't in control anymore. She'd lost it, and that terrified her more than anything in the world. What sweet, bitter victory. The guardianship petition for Esther failed. The doctors confirmed she was competent to make her own decisions. Esther recovered well from the stroke and was discharged to a rehabilitation facility. And then something surprising happened. Laura filed a countersuit against my parents for harassment, stalking, and malicious interference with my career and finances. With all the documented evidence, she had a strong case. Daniel quietly withdrew as their lawyer, something about potential ethics violations. Eleanor and Robert had to hire a new attorney, and this one advised them to drop their defamation lawsuit against me. The lawsuit was dismissed. For the first time in months, I could breathe. I still didn't have a residency. I still had massive debt and a damaged reputation. But the active attacks had stopped. The restraining order was in place. The lawsuit was gone. My bank finally finished their fraud investigation and restored most of my stolen money. Not all of it, but enough that I had a cushion again. I kept working at the healthcare consulting job. I started therapy to process everything that had happened. I began the long, slow work of rebuilding my life. And then, 2 months after everything fell apart, I got an email that changed everything. Dear Dr. Evans, it read, I hope this message finds you well. My name is Dr. Sarah Mitchell, and I'm the residency director at Cascadia Medical Center in Seattle. I recently heard about your situation from Dr. Evelyn Reed, who felt terrible about how things ended at St. Jude's Hospital. She reached out to several of her colleagues advocating on your behalf. After reviewing your record, speaking with your references at medical school, and learning what you've been through, I would like to offer you a position in our residency program starting in 3 months. Please let me know if you're interested in discussing this opportunity. I read the email 3 times. Seattle. All the way across the country. Far from my family, far from everything I knew. A chance to start completely over. A prestigious program, maybe even better than St. Jude's had been. But there was a catch. Residency. Positions were public record. My family would be able to find out where I was going, and the restraining order was only valid in my current state. I called Chloe immediately. They're offering me a residency in Seattle. That's amazing. Are you going to take it? I don't know. What if they follow me? What if this all starts again? Then you fight back again. But Lena, you can't let them take your dreams away. You've worked too hard. You deserve this. I called Esther next. She was back home, recovering well, and her voice was strong. Take it, she said firmly. Take it and don't look back. Eleanor can't hurt you anymore. The restraining order, the failed lawsuit. David and I watching her every move. She knows she's lost. Go be a doctor, sweetheart. It's what you were meant to do. I thought about it for 2 days, and then I accepted. 2 weeks before I was supposed to move to Seattle, a package arrived at Chloe's apartment. It was addressed to me. No return address. Inside was the family heirloom necklace I'd left on the table at the graduation dinner. And a note in my mother's handwriting: "You always took what wasn't yours. You don't deserve this. You'll fail." I stared at that note for a long, long time. The old Lena, the one from 18 months ago, would have been terrified. She would have questioned herself. Wondered if maybe Eleanor was right. But I wasn't that Lena anymore. I'd been through too much. I'd survived too much. I put the necklace back in the box and put it in my storage unit. I didn't need it. I didn't need anything from them. And then I started packing for Seattle. The call came when I was halfway through packing up my life for the move to Seattle. Unknown number again, but something told me to answer. "Lena, this is your Uncle David. We need to talk about what's really going on with your mother." I sat down on Chloe's couch, surrounded by boxes. "What do you mean?" "I'm at the airport. I flew in from Portland because I spent time with your grandmother after her stroke and she told me everything that's been happening to you, so I did some digging. Can we meet? This isn't something I want to discuss over the phone." We met at a coffee shop an hour later. David looked older than I remembered, but his eyes were sharp and angry. He ordered us both coffee and sat down across from me. "I need to tell you something, and you're not going to like it, but you deserve to know the truth about why your mother has been so vicious to you." "Okay," I said, my heart pounding. He pulled out a folder from his briefcase. "I spent the last few weeks investigating Eleanor and Robert's finances. Called in some favors, asked some questions, looked at some public records. What I found was worse than I expected." He opened the folder and showed me documents, bank statements, credit reports, legal filings. "Your parents are broke, Lena. Not just struggling, completely broke. Robert's business failed 2 years ago, but they've been hiding it. They're hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. They're on the verge of losing their house. They've been living off credit cards and loans from Daniel and Michael, trying to maintain appearances." I stared at the numbers on the page. It didn't make sense. They'd always seemed so successful, so put together. "I don't understand. What does this have to do with me?" Uncle David pulled out another document. "This is a copy of Esther's will from 5 years ago. She changed it after Eleanor tried to manipulate her into giving her money for one of Robert's failed investments. In the current will, Eleanor only gets 20% of the estate. You get 50%. The rest goes to other grandchildren and charities." My hands went cold. I didn't know that. Eleanor knows. She's known for years, and she's been trying everything to either get Esther to change it back or get guardianship so she can control Esther's money. He paused. "Your grandmother is worth about $4 million. Lena, suddenly everything made sickening sense. The cruelty at the graduation dinner wasn't just about control or disappointment. It was about money. She wanted me broken," I whispered, the words tasting like ash. "She wanted me dependent on them so they could manipulate me. Maybe even convince me to side with them against Grandma Esther's will." "Exactly," Uncle David confirmed, his gaze firm. "Or convince Esther you're unstable and shouldn't inherit that, too. The plagiarism allegations, the harassment, all of it was designed to make you look unfit. If Esther believed you were having a breakdown, she might change the will." I felt truly sick. They've been systematically trying to destroy me for money. "I'm sorry, Lena. I'm so sorry I didn't see this sooner. I've been on the other side of the country, and Eleanor and I haven't been close in years. But when Esther had her stroke and told me what was happening, I had to look into it." "Does Grandma know about their financial situation?" "She does now. I showed her everything. She's furious." He explained she was talking about cutting Eleanor out entirely. Over the next few days, Uncle David testified in the guardianship case, presenting all his financial research. The judge was not impressed with Eleanor's desperation to gain control of her mother's assets while hiding her own financial ruin. The restraining order hearing had already happened, but Uncle David's information strengthened the case. Eleanor and Robert had to stay away from me. No contact, no third-party messages, 300 feet minimum distance at all times. I watched Eleanor in that courtroom, and for the first time, I saw her clearly. Not as my mother, but as a desperate woman who'd gambled everything on maintaining appearances and lost. She'd sacrificed her relationship with her daughter, her integrity, her reputation, all for money she was never going to get. And I felt nothing. Not anger, not sadness, just relief that it was over. The defamation lawsuit they'd filed against me collapsed under the weight of all the evidence. Laura's countersuit for harassment and malicious interference was so strong that their new lawyer advised them to settle immediately. They dropped their case, agreed to pay my legal fees, and signed documents agreeing to never contact me again under penalty of additional legal action. Daniel had already withdrawn as their counsel, probably realizing he'd crossed ethical lines by using his legal connections to help them harass me. Word got around the legal community. His reputation took a hit. My bank finally restored all the money that had been stolen from my accounts. The fraud investigation confirmed that someone with inside information had accessed my accounts and transferred money out before freezing them. The bank couldn't prove who, but they restored every dollar and apologized for the delay. Esther recovered fully from her stroke. She moved into an assisted living facility that was more like a luxury apartment complex, somewhere she'd have help if she needed it, but could maintain her independence. She remained sharp and in full control of her affairs, and she was more determined than ever to help me. "I'm giving you a check for $50,000, she said when I visited her. "Don't argue. It's a gift, not a loan. Use it to start your new life in Seattle. Get a nice apartment. Buy what you need. Have a cushion while you settle in." I started to protest, but she held up her hand. "Lena, I'm 81 years old. I have more money than I could spend in 3 lifetimes. And you know what? Watching you stand up to Eleanor, watching you refuse to break no matter what she threw at you, that's made me prouder than anything else in my life. You're the granddaughter I always hoped you'd be. Strong, principled, brave. Let me help you. It would make me so happy." So I accepted, and it felt like freedom. I found a beautiful 1-bedroom apartment in Seattle near the hospital. I bought new furniture. I got professional clothes for residency. I treated myself to things I'd always considered luxuries, like quality running shoes and a real coffee maker. Chloe threw me a goodbye party. Esther came, supported by a walker, but smiling. Uncle David flew in from Portland. Jessica, Chloe's girlfriend, made an incredible dinner. Several friends from medical school showed up. It was small, but it was full of people who genuinely cared about me. "To Lena," Chloe said, raising her glass, "who showed us all what real strength looks like." Everyone cheered, and I felt tears in my eyes. Good tears, this time. I moved to Seattle 2 weeks later. The drive across the country took 4 days, and every mile felt like leaving the past behind. I listened to podcasts and music, stopped at roadside diners, slept in budget hotels. By the time I reached Seattle, I felt lighter than I had in years. Cascadia Medical Center welcomed me with open arms. My new residency director, Dr. Sarah Mitchell, was warm and supportive. My fellow residents were friendly and talented. Nobody knew about my past drama. I was just Dr. Lena Evans, the new resident who transferred from the East Coast. I worked hard, harder than I'd ever worked. 80-hour weeks in the emergency department, learning from incredible attending physicians, treating patients, saving lives. And I loved every exhausting minute of it. For the first time in my life, I felt happy. Genuinely, completely happy. I made friends with my residency cohort. I started dating someone, a nurse named Alex, who was kind and funny and had no idea about my complicated family history. I adopted a dog from a local shelter, a sweet mutt named Max, who greeted me every day like I was the best thing in the world. I video called Esther every Sunday. I talked to Uncle David regularly. Chloe visited twice that first year, and we explored Seattle together like tourists. I went to therapy every week to process the trauma of what my family had done. My therapist helped me understand that cutting them off wasn't cruel, it was self-preservation. And that I didn't owe anyone access to my life, not even family. 18 months passed. 18 months of building a new life, a better life. I excelled in my residency program. The attendings loved me. My patient reviews were excellent. I was publishing research again, this time in emergency medicine. Everything I'd worked for was finally happening. And then one day, I got an email from Daniel. Subject: Mom is sick. I stared at it for a long time before opening it. Lena, I know we're not supposed to contact you, but this is important. Mom has been diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer. She's starting treatment next week. She's been asking for you. She says she's sorry for everything that happened and wants to make amends. Dad wanted me to reach out. Please consider coming home to see her. She needs you. Robert had added a note at the bottom: please come home. She needs you. We all miss you. I read the email 3 times. I felt my heart rate pick up. That familiar anxiety starting to creep in. The old guilt, the old obligation, the voice in my head saying, but she's your mother. Without a moment's hesitation, I closed the email. No. I wasn't going to respond immediately. First, I called Esther. Grandma, did you know about Eleanor's diagnosis? I did. She called me last week. Lena, I'm sorry she's sick, I truly am. But you need to know something. She's not sorry. She's scared and wants support, but she hasn't changed. She hasn't apologized. She's using this illness to try to guilt you into coming back. How do you know? Because she called me trying to use the cancer diagnosis to get me to change my will. Said she needed financial security for her medical treatments and that you should understand since you're a doctor. I told her no. I also told her that trying to manipulate me while she's sick was particularly low. I felt that familiar clarity settle over me. The same clarity I'd felt at the graduation dinner when I'd walked away. Thank you for telling me. What are you going to do? She asked softly. What I need to do for myself. I opened my laptop and typed a response to Daniel. I'm sorry to hear about Eleanor's illness. I hope she responds well to treatment and makes a full recovery. However, I meant what I said 18 months ago. I don't exist to you. I'm not your daughter, your sister, or your family member anymore. That door was closed permanently when you chose to systematically destroy my life rather than respect my boundaries. Please don't contact me again. I wish you all well. But from a distance. I hit send before any shred of doubt could creep in. Then I blocked Daniel's email address. No guilt. Just freedom. Pure, glorious freedom. Esther called me that night. Eleanor called me crying. Said you refused to see her. She's telling everyone you're heartless. I'm okay with that, Grandma. Let her tell whoever she wants, whatever she wants. I'm 3,000 miles away, living my life, and she can't touch me anymore. Good. I'm proud of you, sweetheart. The next few months passed peacefully. I heard through Uncle David that Eleanor's treatment was going well, that she was likely to recover fully. I was glad. I didn't wish her harm, but I also didn't want her in my life. Daniel sent one more email that I didn't open. Then nothing. They finally got the message. 3 years after the graduation dinner, I was standing in front of a mirror in a hotel ballroom, adjusting my name tag, Dr. Lena Evans, emergency medicine specialist. I was attending a national medical conference, about to present research I'd conducted on trauma protocols in emergency departments. My life looked nothing like it had that terrible night. I'd finished my residency with honors, top of my class. Cascadia Medical Center had offered me a fellowship in emergency medicine, which I had completed. Now I was working as an attending physician in their ED, teaching residents, conducting research, saving lives every day. I had a beautiful apartment with a view of the water. Max, now 3 years old, was the best dog I could have asked for. Alex and I had been together for 2 years, and he'd moved in 6 months ago. We were talking about marriage, but there was no rush. Life felt good, stable, and completely mine. I hadn't spoken to Eleanor, Robert, Daniel, or Michael in 3 years. The restraining order was now permanent. I'd heard through Uncle David that their financial situation had stabilized somewhat. Eleanor had recovered from cancer. Daniel's career had bounced.